A federal jury in Manhattan has convicted Sean Diddy Combs on all 4 sex trafficking charges. But the single biggest charge, the one prosecutors call the heart of their case, total deadlock. After 7 weeks of testimony and more than 30 witnesses, jurors got completely stuck on the sprawling RICO charge, with unpersuadable opinions on both sides, forcing a mistrial on that single count.
There is a partial verdict in the Diddy case. After 2 days, the jury has reached unanimous decisions on 4 of the 5 counts.
The problem is that 5th count means that we don't get to find out what the verdicts are on the other 4 because they are hung up on racketeering.
Which is what we talked about for days.
And all the facts they could have, but moving this from there was immoral, unethical behavior to this was a criminal enterprise to the tune of a racketeering charge, that's a really high hill to climb, and we're seeing that this morning.
So why did this fizzle? And why might Diddy walk away with a slap? Strap in while I fumble through explaining RICO like an Amazon furniture manual with half the instructions missing. So after a grueling 7-week federal trial, the jury came back guilty on all 4 sex crime counts: trafficking, prostitution, the whole nasty menu.
So the defense made a bail application at the conclusion of the jury's reading of the charges. So as everybody knows, and just to catch everyone up to speed, Combs was found not guilty of the first count, which was the RICO racketeering count, and found not guilty of both of the sex trafficking counts. He was only found guilty of the transportation for prostitution count, which is under the Mann Act. Those are the 2 most minor counts. He faces up to 10 years on each of those counts for a maximum of 20 years, but it's unlikely he's going to do that much time.
But the racketeering conspiracy charge stuck. After 2 days of deliberating, they hit a wall. And I ain't gonna hold y'all, I swore this meant decades behind bars. My co-host thought he'd walk. Turns out we both might be wrong. The whole situation makes the defense strategy that looked like a wild gamble seem like it might have worked. They didn't call any witnesses and didn't put Diddy himself on the stand. The entire case was banking on the idea that the government simply failed to prove its case and was just trying to criminalize what they call a swinger lifestyle. Which, side note, what I learned from this trial is that lifestyle involves copious amounts of baby oil. Well, what exactly is this so-called RICO charge everyone's talking about, you ask? So, the charge that had 12 people ready to throw hands, I'm sure you heard of it. You definitely heard of the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. When you hear that, you think mob bosses in every gangster movie making offers you can't refuse. The law was designed in the 70s to take down crime families, not just the soldiers. To win a RICO case, the prosecutors can't just prove a person did bad shit. They have to prove that person was running a structured, ongoing criminal enterprise and that the crimes was basically part of their whole business plan. Think of it like this. The government didn't just have to prove that Diddy committed violent acts or paid for hoes. They had to convince all 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that his entire operation, record label, companies, staff, whole crew, was functioning as a criminal organization. They had to show the crimes were personal, his awful decisions, all of that was like a core to his entire business. Clearly, the prosecution just couldn't get the jury there. The fact that he was acquitted on the RICO charges shows that the prosecution couldn't convince the entire jury that Diddy's behavior, no matter how nasty, legally made him the head of an enterprise on the same level as a mob boss. He wasn't Tony Soprano. So here's the core problem. How could a jury agree on 4 charges but self-destruct on RICO? If he's guilty of the other things, then surely he's guilty of this too, right? It comes down to the leap between proving individual crimes and proving a criminal conspiracy. One juror might hear the evidence and think, that nigga guilty.
Guilty! That nigga is guilty!
Sir, settle down. You have to go deliberate.
I don't need to deliberate. Hang that nigga now! I got the rope right here!
Straight line. But RICO asks them to zoom out and look at everything as individual pieces of a single crime machine that Combs was running for years. This is where you get the unpersuadable opinion. Some jurors might look at it and see a pattern of dirtbag behavior. Others might say a $1 million company being run as a criminal enterprise, that's a stretch. Bad Boy is not the Corleones. Sean Combs, the man, might be a criminal, but Obviously, some jurors don't believe that Diddy, the CEO, ran his company as a crime ring. That subtle difference is a massive legal hurdle. So what happens now? That RICO struggle was everything for Diddy's future, and it ended in mistrial. But the stakes are still insane. Let's break it down. First, the prosecution's dream scenario, that RICO verdict is dead. That life sentence is gone. But here's the twist. We got 4 guilty verdicts on sex crimes, so technically he's still facing decades in prison. Second, the defense won on RICO. The jurors rejected the criminal enterprise theory. That's huge, but it doesn't get rid of those other previous 4 convictions. And third, the messy reality of it is the RICO deadlock forced a mistrial on that single count. So he ain't walking free. He'll probably be sentenced on the guilty verdicts while the prosecutors decide whether or not they want to retry him on the RICO charges. But if you on that nigga did it side like me, early warning, some of the legal pundits are saying he might not get more than a year.
You know, Jessica, the public is going to be very interested in whether this very famous man goes to prison or not. The 2 guilty verdicts carry potential punishments of up to 10 years, but as Caroline pointed out, they also have no mandatory minimum. It could be 0 years. Do we have any sense at this early date of where in the range of things he could fall?
So we're going to look, the prosecution and the defense will both submit sentencing memorandum. They will make their argument to the judge. The judge will have discretion to say, I think X is appropriate. I clerked for a federal judge, and he used to tell me, you know, when we went back, he said, it's within my discretion. If I want to give a big bear hug and say, no, go be a good citizen, I can do so. I don't think we're going to see that in this case, but I think some prison time could absolutely be on the table, again, given everything that we've heard in this.
I'm going to state this plainly. I think the jury got this wrong. Not about RICO, because that was always a stretch, but more so about the consequences. He did horrible shit. If he walks away with just a slap, that's not innocence. To me, it's just proof that our legal system is broken. Innocent people sit in cells while guilty people go home every day, B. So here's the raw truth. Diddy's reputation is drenched in baby oil and shame. His empire is crumbling, and the charge that could have buried him ended in a jury meltdown. But the real crime is a system where guilty verdicts might mean nothing. This whole thing is complicated, and it really leaves us with more questions than answers about fame, power, and what justice even means. But I generally want to know what y'all think, though. Does this verdict change how you see the case? Let me know your honest thoughts down in the comments. And if you get value from these kind of legal deep dives, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more videos that try to make sense of the headline. It's your boy Cash from the Make It Make Sense podcast. And if you hear noise in the background, remember, drills, jacks. Stay up, y'all.